I talk about this all the time. Miss Rachel, Coco Melon, and these other things where parents are giving the tablet to the babies and just walking away, and the baby's brain is cooked.
There is a stat reported by Jonathan Haidt that 40% of toddlers today by age 2 have a personal tablet.
That is insane.
40%. Yeah.
Me and Sarah have been
child abuse.
Me and Sarah have been talking about, like, I've got a baby on the way in October.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we're gonna do everything we can to keep all of the screens away.
Yep.
Like, if the people that make social media applications and stuff like that, if they don't let their children use them, and now that there's actual research coming out saying how bad it is for kids, I mean, it's probably the only responsible thing to do. And people that are just like, oh, just give them the screen so that way he'll shut up, those are probably the worst parents. And we're going to have massive ramifications in probably 20 years.
I want to cite where this came from. It was from Common Sense Media, and it shows 40% of toddlers have their own tablet device by the time they're 2 years old. They also showed 1 out of 4 kids under the age of 8 has their own smartphone. And this is part of a report that is encouraging parents to have a common sense approach and draw boundaries and da-da-da. The parents who are offering their baby an iPad do not care. They do not heed the advice of the experts, even if the experts are right. They don't care.
I just want to say, today we had a scare with my daughter. She was laying on the ground, and I was watching The Five, of course. And when Jessica Tarlov started speaking, she immediately looked to the TV, and our hearts sank immediately. We panicked and quickly covered our eyes and said, "Baby, don't look, don't look."
Get out of here.
And then once Jessie came back on, we let her watch again. I'm half kidding. We don't let her watch the TV at all. So I'm watching The Five. I usually watch it. I don't watch it every day, but I watch it quite a bit. And my daughter does always try and look at the TV, and so my wife will just
so
turn around.
Hyper-stimulating.
Yeah, all the flashing
they can't
lights.
Help it.
Yep.
And I think the only sign for hope, maybe that we're not cooked in the future, is Gen Z. A lot of Gen Z is going to opt out of having children at all. That much is clear. But the ones who will start families, I am confident they will refuse to create more iPad babies, because we were the ones first tested with this. I was given a smartphone as a child, and I don't blame my parents for that, because they couldn't have known what that was going to snowball into.
And look what happened to her.
And look what happened to me, right? Like, I didn't turn out that great. So I think Gen Z parents are going to have a better approach to this. And every time that you talk about this issue, about the iPad baby generation, you will get bombarded with mainly millennial parents telling you, you have no idea how difficult it is to raise a child without constant screen time, as if every generation in human history didn't do exactly that, the way they raised their children.
I have no sympathy for people that complain like that about
Absolutely
how difficult modern life is.
People have said, like, just fill a plastic bag with water and canned peas and give it to your baby. It's the same damn thing as, and it's not the same neurologically. It just
better.
keeps it gives them something to touch and experience.
We tactile.
No, we give the
it's tactile learning.
We gave the baby an abacus.
And it's not going to brain rot them.
Yeah,
it's
like
so easy.
Remember, like, every parent gave their when we were all children, we were given the abacus, and you're moving little things around. Like a oddly shaped abacus. I don't know what those things are called, but they're an abacus. You know what I mean?
It's the same thing. It's just
squiggly and incomprehensible abacus.
Yeah,
and you could navigate it.
And do you think that there's any upside to technology in kids, like for a learning tool?
Probably not babies. Probably not
babies. No, I would agree with that.
But at a certain age, yes. So for me, when I was probably 7, I was 9 when I built my first computer.
Oh wow. That's very impressive.
Well, my family had. I appreciate that, but I don't actually think so, because it's not hard to do.
I have no knowledge of any of that kind of thing.
Yeah, went to a thrift store, grabbed a motherboard, grabbed a hard drive, grabbed a monitor, grabbed. I think this was before Pentium, so the RAM was built into the motherboard. I plugged the ribbon cables, plugged into the wall, turned it on. Then I put in the floppy disks for Windows 3.1 or whatever, and then I had my own computer in my room. We didn't have internet. My family had internet. I've had internet since I was a kid. But that, I think, was good. And here's the challenge. The internet for me was a really great thing when I was probably, I don't know, I was like 10 years old. I'd go online. The internet was AOL. And so everything was heavily moderated. You could go to chat rooms and there could be creepos and weirdos, but for the most part, chat rooms were moderated and slow moving and boring.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly what I would do is download freeware off of AOL. So I'd find the games. And then I ended up getting something called Click and Play for everybody who remembers that, which eventually became Games Factory, Multimedia Fusion, and then Flash. But the internet was particularly limited for the first few years, or I should say for my first few years. And of course, by the time I was 13, you had Lemon Party, Goatsy, Meatspin. Nobody Googled those things. And the internet became a very twisted and dark place.
Maybe you could
Well, also
Google
at the
them.
time that the internet wasn't optimized yet for user experience, and this is why Gen Z knows nothing about how
Anything.
to actually operate computers, and millennials do, because they grew up in the age of the internet that you're talking about.
Gen Z grew up
They had
where...
to figure it out for themselves.
So the internet, actually, millennials didn't have the internet I had. So Gen Xers did. I was early. So Gen Xers were more likely to have the internet in the early 90s. Millennials likely did not. Most of my friends didn't have the internet until we were like, I don't know, 13, 14. And then people started getting AOL Instant Messenger. But my family had internet since I was like 3 years old with CompuServe on DOS. And then I remember we had DOS Shell. We had 2 A floppy drives, the 3-inch floppy drives. We didn't have we had one computer, had the B floppies, the big ones. And for those that don't know what DOS Shell is, it's a white screen and the file names are just text and you can move like a color block over them to select them. Before that, when we were just operating on DOS, if you wanted to load a game, you had to know the directory to type in. So like CD/, and then the name of the directory. Then you had to type in like, if it were Minecraft, .exe, enter, and then run it. Now with Windows, you see an image and click it. So what happens is Gen Xers and boomers who are in computers at an early stage have to physically type things and put in commands into, the operating system. Then you get Windows, which simplifies it. Gen Z grew up where it's apps. You tap and it opens. So there's nothing to it. It's a single button iPhone or something.
What do you think the next step is?
Neuralink.
Well, with the
Voice
idea
command
that you
stuff.
can use technology for educational purposes for kids, I think that is a loaded idea and it gets misinterpreted by people, the iPad parents, who are like, oh, I give my kid an iPad so that Miss Rachel and Cocomelon can teach them about colors in the alphabet. When in reality, that's not educating your child at all. That's just offloading a responsibility of caregiving onto technology. And the results bear out. Teachers are talking about the outcomes for these kids who have been raised by iPads. They aren't potty trained. They can barely walk. They can barely speak. They can't operate a book. They don't know what it means to pick up a book and turn a page. They tap it. They're tapping the pages.
I do love a hardcover. I still romanticize holding a book and turning a page.
So this is crazy, but most people don't know this. One, the most important years of a human being's life are 0 through 5, and it's exponentially more important the younger they are. So, like, obviously, I just had a kid, and her weight is more than double in 4 months.
And that's when your weight is like, not your weight, your brain is like a sponge, right? They say like, one of my friends in elementary school, he said that he learned English at age 6, I think, and I asked him how long, and I remember he said a week, because he just heard it and it just entered his body and stayed there. Whereas I've tried to teach myself Italian and it didn't go well.
So,
How old?
When I did Rosetta Stone in my early 20s.
Well, the issue is immersion. And so I do think there's, I think that's probably a misconception where they say it's easier to learn a language when you're a kid. Well, technically, because you don't do anything else. It's harder when you're an adult because you're busy. But if you go, if a person who speaks English moves to, say, Italy, it takes, I think, on average 40 weeks to become fluent in the language.
Interesting.
But you're speaking it within 3 weeks.
It's a survival. You have to speak it.
Right. And so you actually learn much faster than a baby would.
Interesting.
So a 2-year-old is not going to have a conversation with you.
Sure.
But
any
and
language.
Then it takes about 1.5 years to learn Asian languages. So an English, a European, romance or Germanic language speaker takes them about 88 weeks to learn an Asian language, because it's so different. But the important thing I was going to say is, so right now, one thing I try to do is I play guitar with my baby. because this is the point where her brain is literally expanding and wiring itself for everything. So my wife, whenever she's doing work on the computer or anything, she's explaining to our daughter what she's doing. She's reading stories to her. And we say, no phones, no TV, no tablets, none of that stuff. We keep that away. It is terrifying. Like, I think Miss Rachel is one of the most dangerous demonic forces right now, because she has hundreds of millions of views on all these videos. And there's this creepy viral video that shows it's a montage of babies crying, and then they turn on Miss Rachel, and the babies just go, huh? And then stare at the screen. Like, this lady is going to be 70, and she's going to like be walking in a park, and she's going to go, my children rise. And all of the Miss Rachel babies are going to be like, yes, Miss Rachel. And
She's going to start a cult. Actually, Miss Rachel might be the Antichrist. Yeah.
Indeed.
Remains to be seen.
no one's questioned that.
No one's.
But then you look at like Coco Melon, where it's just this weird 3D rendered low res crap.
A lot of it is AI generated.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. And babies are just staring at it like drooling and being zombified.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about daycare and the emotional effect that it has on babies and toddlers because they have attachment issues as a result. But a lot of people are saying the reason why it's so traumatizing for these babies to be put in daycare is because of the separation anxiety with their iPad. That they can't be with the iPad. That's why.
Really?
It's not because they're upset about being separated from their mother per se. They're being separated from technology for the day. Yeah.
That's scary.
That's really scary because
Yes.
we're producing a generation or more of like invalid humans. Like never mind. Like if you can't operate a book, I mean it's pretty simple, you know.
I think they probably get there, right?
I mean, yeah, okay, so but fine, but kids aren't potty trained. So I understand your point. Like they do get there, and a book is
Saying
simple.
they can't climb staircases.
Yeah,
they have delayed motor skills because they haven't been using their muscles.
Exactly.
I've heard
like
stories-
broken human beings. You know?
I've heard stories of kids that don't start speaking until they're 3.
There's some damage that you can't reverse. But the kids I'm talking about, they're ages 4 to 6 because they're getting interviews from teachers who are responsible for kids entering school for the first time. Those kids are even older. They cannot speak properly. They cannot climb staircases.
Human civilization meets the great filter by means of
technology.
Yeah, technology.
Technology is actually the great filter.
Well, I was thinking about this because North Korea launched a tourism beach. Have you guys heard of this one? Maybe I should pull this up.
I want to go.
So do I. It's a
But we're not allowed to go.
I am.
You are?
I'm Korean.
Do you have a Korean passport?
No, but
You're only allowed to go if you have a passport outside of the U.S.
That's not true.
Trump implemented the ban in 2018. He said U.S. citizens were no longer allowed to travel to North Korea because of a scandal where
I don't think that's
an American citizen was a tourist.
Otto
there.
Warmbier,
Yeah.
He got in trouble for, I believe, stealing a propaganda poster from his hotel room. They tortured him and killed him.
I don't think the United States has the authority to restrict its citizens from traveling places.
If you have a passport in another
yeah.
country, you may travel with that passport.
There was a
but
time when-
it's a crime.
no, you're
in the
right. I was
US.
wrong.
It's a crime on the U.S. side of things. So if you come home, they will arrest you.
You just have to get in touch with Dennis Rodman and have him chaperone the trip.
Unless you have like some special permission from the State Department, then they will allow you to do that for like journalism.
Oh yeah, you are
purposes,
totally right. I was very wrong.
Otherwise, I've looked into this deeply because I wanted
to go.
I wanted to go, but we're banned, and I really hoped that Trump would
we can
lift
go.
the ban.
It says for journalistic reasons.
Well, there you go.
Well, but that introduces a whole lot of new pressures. I just wanted to, see the sights.
I think Americans should be avoiding North Korea and Russia and all these places to keep.
But I want to go.
Looking for opportunities to either lock up or, in the case of Otto Warmbier, who we went to the same university, and that was a huge. I mean, that was so.
Did you know him?
I did not know him though. But I mean, these places are authoritarian. Like that is what people talk about. The word fascism. That is absolute fascism. So.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.